Hi, it's Ali from Inspiralized, and today we're in my kitchen and we are making my vegan spiralized fajita bowls. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm always in the mood for fajitas, but I used to hate slicing onions and peppers for what felt like ages. So now with the Inspiralizer, we can make easy spiralized fajitas. So this fajita bowl that I'm making is vegan. It's topped with refried beans and avocado, but if you're not a vegan or a vegetarian, you could use shrimp, you could use chicken, any sort of topping that you like that fits your diet preference. So before we get started, I'm just going to go over the ingredients that you'll need to make this dish. You're going to need 2 red bell peppers and 1 green bell pepper. Now I picked these colors because they're sort of on the Mexican vibe. That's sort of what is used in Mexican cooking the most, but if you like a different colored pepper, you could swap it in easily. Yellow, orange, eat the rainbow. Then we have 1 white onion, and we have my homemade fajita seasoning mix. This is tried and true by me. It is chock full of dried herbs like onion powder, garlic powder, cumin, smoked paprika, oregano. It is perfect, it's spot on for those fajita flavors, and I will leave a link in the description of this video so that you can grab the recipe to make it alongside me. Then we need chopped cilantro, always with Mexican food, and we have those vegan refried beans. We have 1 avocado that's nice and ripe. I have a ½ cup of vegetable broth, low sodium, and then I have a tablespoon of tomato paste. Now this is my secret to making the best fajitas. I kind of like that Italian vibe where it's nice and creamy, so I add a tablespoon of tomato paste into my fajitas so they're nice and creamy, and then that vegetable broth kind of makes a nice sauce for those fajitas. And of course you're going to need a Inspiralizer or a Spiralizer and just some salt and pepper. So to get started, we're going to spiralize all our veggies. So that is 3 bell peppers and an onion. So my trick to spiralizing a bell pepper is to slice the top off with a paring knife and then rip it off and pull out the seeds. Now, if you're not really good or you're afraid of your knife skills, then you could skip this step and just spiralize as is. But as you can see, removing the top removes a lot of the seeds, so it's a little less messy of a spiralized experience. Just set these off. And then next what I do is I just pat the bottom to get those excess seeds out. So as you'll see here, a lot of the seeds are falling out. And then you could just take your finger and kind of pull them out if you want, but you don't need to get too crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the other red bell pepper. Just slice the tops off. And it makes it much easier when you have that paring knife, because it's kind of hard to do with a bigger knife. Okay, pull that top off right there. And again, just pat. All the seeds are going everywhere anyway, but this makes the spiralizing part of it a little easier. Okay, and then I'm going to do this monstrous green bell pepper. And this recipe serves 4, so that's why I'm using so many veggies, but you could obviously cut this down and have it if you're just making it for 2, or I recommend making it for 4 because you're going to want leftovers for the week. All right, set that aside, and again, pat out. This one's a little bigger. All right, that's perfect. And our onion is already prepped to be spiralized. The ends are sliced off flatly and evenly, and of course I peeled the onion. So now we're ready to spiralize. So I have my Inspiralizer here, and I'm just going to secure it to the countertop with the counter clamps. And I actually already have it set on blade A, and that is a blade that we're going to use to spiralize these veggies. So when you're peeling a veggie, you don't want noodles necessarily, and you just want nice swirls, I always recommend using blade A. So we're going to start with this red bell pepper here, and I have my plate right underneath. And the trick here is to put the thicker part right here, try to center as much as you can on this end of the spiralizer, and hold that down, and then push the back handle in and secure firmly. And this is the most important part, because if it's not secured firmly, then it'll be a little less enjoyable of a process. So now I'm just going to grab that back handle and spiralize. And you'll see the beautiful bell pepper noodles coming out, and not too many seeds are falling out because we cut the top off before. But as you get towards the end, you'll start to see a little more of the seeds, so you can kind of stop. All right. And you can go a step further and slice this up into more strips, or you can just take a bite, dip it in hummus, save it for later, chop it up for some omelets. Okay, and now that we have these noodles, I'm going to go right ahead and repeat with the red bell pepper. Same thing, secure well, and then spiralize. Okay. Last but not least, our green bell pepper. And when you purchase a bell pepper, a great tip is to look for one that's kind of rectangular. I know that sounds weird because bell peppers are round, but the longer it is, the easier it is on the spiralizer. All right. We're getting a great big yield out of that bell pepper. So we're just gonna pop this off, and nothing's too jammed in here, but if you wanted to grab a brush and clean it before you spiralize your onion, you could do that, but we're pretty good. And that's because we de-seeded that bell pepper before we started. So now I'm just gonna grab my onion, secure it firmly, center it, put that back handle in, nice and firm, and then spiralize. And I think onions are usually what impress people most, seeing how quickly you can just slice an onion. So imagine if you were making fajitas, this process would have taken you much longer, but with the Inspiralizer, it's much easier. So now we're done, we're spiralized, and we're ready to start making those fajitas. We are ready to make our fajitas. So I have a wok actually that's heating over medium-high heat. I like using a wok with spiralized veggies whenever I've spiralized more than 2 to 3 veggies, because as you can tell by our big bowl here, it can be a little overwhelming. So a wok not only cooks them a little quicker, it also holds the veggies a lot easier than a regular skillet would. So while this heats up, I'm actually going to prepare my avocado, which is going to be used as a garnish in our fajita bowls. So I am just going to slice this open and slice the insides thinly. Now you could slice them, you could cube them, you could mash them into this bowl. I love the way that the sliced avocado looks, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, pull this off. And I'm going to slice this other half. And then I'm going to just take my spoon to get the avocado flesh out. It's always a tricky process. You want to use a bigger spoon. This spoon's probably a little small. Okay, it worked. And the last half. I gotta say, I go through a lot of avocados a week. All right. Set this aside. Now that our avocado is prepped, our skillet is ready for those fresh spiralized veggies, and I'm just going to add them right in. Okay. Now I have a pair of pasta tongs, and I'm going to toss as best I can. All right, I have a pair of fresh kitchen shears, and I'm just going to lift these noodles up and trim them. And of course you want to do this so that when you go to eat, you're not eating these massively long noodles. Especially some of these onion noodles. They're about the length of my apartment, I think. Okay. Whoop. Just kind of toss them around more so you can make sure you trim all the other edges of the noodles. And you want to mix it up so that the onions and the bell peppers, their flavors are kind of sweating all together. And yes, sweating is a culinary term. I didn't make that up. Okay. And once you're all trimmed, you can just keep tossing. And as you toss, you'll notice they'll start to wilt. You can smell the fresh onions and peppers. And they should sweat a little moisture, which is going to help with our sauce in the end when we add that tomato paste. So I'm just going to toss again just until they're combined. Keep trimming a little of the noodles. All right. And I'm just going to let this cook for just maybe 2 more minutes. And then I'm going to add in my fajita seasoning. All right. I'm just going to keep tossing. And if you notice, they have definitely wilted down. They're about up to here when we first started. That's exactly what we want. I love my fajitas when they're nice and softened. I don't really like those crispy veggies when I eat fajitas. If you like a little more crunch, then you could cook less, but I'm going to cook for a solid probably 10 minutes. But because they're wilted now, we can go ahead and add in that fajita seasoning. And before we do that, I'm actually just going to grab a fork here and stir together. You want to combine all of those herbs, seasonings, so they're evenly distributed throughout the fajitas. Okay. All right, and I'm just going to pour over. Perfect. And I'm going to give a big toss. And this toss is important because you want to make sure that all of those noodles get covered and smothered in that fajita seasoning. And then when we add that tomato paste, it's going to really make a nice sauce. And I can tell in the bottom of the skillet there's moisture. That's going to be great too for the tomato sauce to sort of absorb all the flavors. Yet another arm workout. Who knew it? Spiralizing. Okay. Just let that cook for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to add in that tomato paste. Now that our noodles are perfectly wilted here, I'm going to add in that tomato paste. Now is where the hard work comes in, because it's kind of tough to distribute that tomato paste, so you just kind of have to be patient and be aware of where the tomato paste is. So I like to kind of stir almost like a spoon with my tongs and try to disperse that tomato paste, and then it'll end up getting stuck into your tongs. So just, again, be aware and toss. And it has a nice tomato flavoring to these fajitas, and it's just so creamy. Okay, I'm just gonna keep tossing and tossing, and you should notice that the noodles will start to get a little light pinkish red coloring from the tomato paste and the fajita seasoning. It's exactly what we want. Okay. And I'm actually gonna season with a little bit of salt. Give it another big toss. So it looks like these noodles are done, and there is a lot of liquid in the bottom, which is great for the sauce, but we're actually not going to use that vegetable broth. If you end up cooking this and you don't have a lot of moisture, maybe you're not using a wok, you're using a regular skillet, and it doesn't really pool the moisture, then you would use a vegetable broth, but I'm actually going to omit it this time. So as this finishes cooking up, I'm going to reheat my refried beans. So these refried beans are from a can. They're vegan friendly and they are delicious. They're a low sodium variety, which you want to make sure you get. And I'm actually just going to pour them into this pot here, and I'm going to go put them over high heat and just bring them to a simmer until they're hot. All right, my bell peppers and onions are cooked and my beans are ready, my avocado, my cilantro. It's time to serve up a bowl. So I'm going to take my pasta tongs here, and I have my kitchen shears ready because I'm sure I didn't trim enough. And I'm just going to grab some of these noodles and just make sure you get all the colors. You get the green in there and you get the red. Every bell pepper has a different nutritional profile because of its color. Okay, so I have some noodles here. And now I'm going to top with some refried beans. And refried beans look a little dicey, but they're so delicious, and I think they're a necessary part of a fajita bowl. So the presentation here might not be especially Pinterest worthy, but it's worth it for your taste buds. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a few slices of avocado. Do an extra slice. And I'm going to garnish with a little cilantro. So my bowl looks a little lonely and needs a good leafy green vegetable. So I actually had some baby arugula in the fridge, and I'm just going to add a little bit as a garnish, but also it's really nice to have lettuce and greens to sop up the refried beans and that sauce in the fajitas. So there you have it, my vegan spiralized fajita bowl. This looks delicious, and I'm just going to take a bite and make sure to get a little bit of refried beans and the avocado. And then if you're using a lettuce as well, you want to grab some of that in there. This is such a lightened up version of fajitas. Such great flavor, so filling. I love this recipe, and it would work really well if you wanted to step it up a notch and put it into a burrito, into a nice wrap, maybe a whole wheat wrap would be really great as well. Such a versatile dish. I hope you make it at home. Thank you so much for tuning in while I made my vegan spiralized fajita bowls. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to receive alerts when I post future episodes of my everyday Inspiralized cooking video series. Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon. Bye.